My daughter told me I would not be attending her wedding on a Tuesday afternoon in a cafe where she had already ordered my tea for me. She said the guest list was small, her fiance's family wanted an elegant and uncomplicated event, and my presence might create what she called unnecessary emotional tension. I didn't argue. I finished my tea, congratulated her, and drove home. 3 days later, she emailed me a color-coded schedule. It explained when I should collect her two children from the wedding reception, what they were allowed to eat, which medication Max needed before bed, when Lily's dance class started, and where I would sleep while caring for them during my daughter's 12-day honeymoon in Italy. She had also included instructions for feeding the dog, watering the plants, accepting a grocery delivery, and returning 2 rented suits. She had planned every hour. She had simply forgotten to ask me. At the bottom of the email, she wrote, "Thank you for being flexible. We knew you could count on you." I replied with one sentence, "I won't be available." My phone rang before the email showed as read. My name is Helen Brooks. I'm 62 years old, and until last year, I worked as the administrative secretary at Harrison Elementary School in Sacramento. For 27 years, I managed enrollment forms, substitute schedules, medication records, parent complaints, missing lunch boxes, and children who arrived at the office insisting they were too sick for math but healthy enough for recess. I was good at organizing complicated days. That became a problem in my family because people began believing that if I could solve something, I should. My daughter, Brooke, was 35 when she became engaged to Grant. She had 2 children from her first marriage, Lily, who was 8, and Max, who was 6. Brooke's divorce had been painful, but not extraordinary. There was no dramatic betrayal or courtroom battle. She and Jason had married too young, grown unhappy, and spent 2 years blaming each other for it. When they finally separated, Brooke was working full-time for a medical equipment company. Jason traveled frequently for his job and had the children on alternating weekends. Brooke needed help. At first, she asked carefully, "Mom, could you possibly collect Lily from school on Thursday? Or would you mind keeping Max for 2 hours while I meet my attorney?" I always said yes. I knew what it was like to raise a child while working. My own parents had come to California before I was born. They worked long hours and believed asking for help was acceptable only after you had exhausted every other possibility. By the time Brooke was born, I had inherited their independence and their guilt. Her father and I divorced when she was 14. He moved to Oregon a few years later, remarried, and became the kind of father who sent thoughtful birthday gifts, but rarely knew what was happening on an ordinary Wednesday. I tried to compensate. Perhaps I compensated too well. After Brooke's divorce, one school pickup became 3 pickups a week. 2 hours became dinner, homework, baths, and bedtime. My name was added to every school form, medical contact list, dance studio account, and summer program. Lily and Max kept clothes at my house. Their cereal appeared in my kitchen. I bought a second set of booster seats because moving them between cars became inconvenient. For the first year, Brooke thanked me constantly. She brought flowers. She sent messages saying she couldn't manage without me. Then gratitude became familiarity. Familiarity became expectation. Requests turned into announcements. "I'll need you Thursday. The kids are staying with you this weekend. I already told the school you're picking them up." If I hesitated, Brooke reminded me that the children loved being with me. She was right. I loved being with them too. That made the arrangement difficult to question. People rarely call it exploitation when the work is performed with love. I told myself I wasn't helping Brooke, I was creating memories with my grandchildren. Both things were true, but only one of them prevented me from setting limits. Grant entered our lives 4 years after the divorce. He was 38, polite, successful, and careful about making a good impression. He worked in commercial real estate and came from a family that treated every dinner as if someone might publish photographs afterwards. The first time we met, he brought wine, even though Brooke had told me I rarely drank. He also brought a small orchid, which lasted longer. He spoke kindly to Lily and Max and never tried to replace their father. I liked him. His mother, Eleanor, was more difficult to understand. She was not openly rude. She simply had a talent for making ordinary information sound like an unfortunate confession. When I told her I worked at a public elementary school, she said, "How grounding." When she learned I lived in the same modest house I had purchased after my divorce, she called it comfortably authentic. At family dinners, Eleanor asked questions about Brooke's divorce in the tone of someone reviewing a damaged item before purchase. Brooke became a different person around her. She spoke more formally, she avoided mentioning money, she described the years after her divorce as a period when she had rebuilt everything independently. The first time she said that, I nearly corrected her. I had picked up the children 4 times that week, paid for Lily's dance shoes, and spent Saturday repairing the bedroom they shared at my house. But Brooke's eyes moved toward me for half a second, and I understood that she wanted silence. I gave it to her. That was my first mistake. Every time she described herself as completely independent, my silence helped turn the exaggeration into a story. Grant proposed after 18 months. He took Brooke to a vineyard in Napa, arranged candles beneath an oak tree, and hired a photographer who appeared at the correct moment. The photographs were beautiful. Lily and Max were delighted. I was happy for her. Brooke had spent years feeling that her first marriage was evidence of poor judgment. Grant made her feel as if she had been selected for a better life. The wedding planning began immediately. Eleanor knew a venue, Claire knew a florist, Grant's sister knew a photographer. Brooke began using the phrase "our vision," even though the vision seemed to belong mostly to other people. I offered to pay for the children's clothing and help with any practical work. Brooke said everything was under control. That should have pleased me. Instead, I felt myself gradually disappearing. I wasn't invited to the dress fitting. Brooke said the appointment had space for only 3 people. Eleanor, Grant's sister, and one of Brooke's co-workers attended. I wasn't included in the tasting because Eleanor had already chosen the menu. When invitations were addressed, Brooke asked me to help correct the spelling of several names, but didn't show me the complete list. I told myself not to be sensitive. This was her wedding. A mother's job was to support, not demand a starring role. Then, 6 weeks before the ceremony, Brooke asked me to meet for tea. She had already ordered a pot of jasmine tea when I arrived. That was how I knew she had prepared the conversation. Brooke only ordered for other people when she wanted the meeting to move quickly. She spoke about the flowers first, then the weather, then Lily's dress. Finally, she placed both hands around her cup. "Mom, there's something I need to discuss with you." I waited. Grant and I have decided to keep the wedding environment very small and emotionally uncomplicated. What does that mean? There have already been some questions about Jason, the kids, and the divorce. Eleanor worries that too many family dynamics could make the day uncomfortable. Is Jason not attending, is it? No. Then what family dynamic are you worried about? She looked down at the tea. You and I haven't always had the easiest relationship. That surprised me. We had disagreed, certainly. Mothers and adult daughters do. But I couldn't remember the last argument that lasted more than a day. Are you saying I'm not invited? I'm saying we have limited space, and Grant's family wants the event to feel cohesive. Am I part of the family? Don't do that. Do what? Turn this into something cruel. I studied her face. I'm trying to understand what you're telling me. This ceremony is going to be very formal. There will be people from Grant's work, Eleanor's friends, business associates. I don't want anyone asking uncomfortable questions about the divorce or how difficult those years were. Why would my presence cause that? She hesitated. Because you sometimes talk about everything you did during that period. I talk about my grandchildren. You mention how often they stayed with you. You mention helping me. I did help you. I know, Mom, but sometimes the way you say it makes it sound like I couldn't handle my own children. I said nothing for several seconds. Could you? She looked as if I had slapped her. That's exactly what I mean. The cafe felt suddenly too warm. How many guests are attending this small wedding? That isn't the point. How many? Around 110? I looked through the window at people walking past. A woman pushed a stroller. Two teenagers were sharing something from a paper bag. Ordinary life continued while my daughter explained that there was no room for me among 110 people. Does Grant know you're not inviting me? We discussed it. That wasn't an answer, but I didn't challenge her. I stood and picked up my handbag. Brooke looked alarmed. You're leaving? You've told me your decision. I thought you'd understand. I understand that you don't want me there. Mom, please don't make this dramatic. I looked at the untouched tea she had ordered for me. I'm leaving a cafe quietly. That is the opposite of dramatic. She called me twice that evening. I didn't answer because I didn't trust myself to speak without saying something I would regret. The following morning, she sent a message saying she loved me and hoped I would eventually understand why the day needed to remain emotionally safe. I did not respond. 3 days later, the childcare schedule arrived. The document contained 6 color-coded sections: blue for Lily, green for Max, yellow for the dog, purple for school transportation, orange for emergency contacts, red for what Brooke called important household responsibilities. According to the schedule, I was expected to arrive at the wedding venue at 8:30 in the evening. Lily and Max would participate in the ceremony and photographs, but leave before the adult reception became too loud. I would collect them through the service entrance so guests would not be disrupted. From there, I would drive them to Brooke and Grant's house, stay overnight, and remain with them for 12 days while the newlyweds traveled through Rome, Florence, and Venice. The schedule included meal plans, medication instructions, school pickups, dance classes, soccer practice, laundry days, dog walking, grocery deliveries, and a reminder to return Grant's rented suit. Brooke had even entered my house as a backup location in case the children preferred sleeping there. Nowhere in the document was there a question mark. At the bottom, she wrote, "Thank you for being flexible. We knew you could count on you." I read the sentence twice. Then I replied, "I won't be available." My phone rang almost immediately. "What do you mean you won't be available?" Brooke asked. "I mean I won't be caring for the children during your honeymoon. You already knew we were going to Italy. I knew you were going. You never asked me to take the children. I assumed." "Yes." "What is that supposed to mean?" "You assumed." She became quiet. Then her voice changed. It became sharper and more efficient, the voice she used when a plan was not cooperating. "Mom, everything is booked. The flights are non-refundable. The hotels are non-refundable. We leave the morning after the wedding. Then you should arrange childcare. You are the childcare." There it was. Not, "I hoped you could help." Not, "I'm sorry I forgot to ask." You are the childcare. "No," I said. "I'm their grandmother." "Why are you doing this?" "Because you planned 12 days of my life without speaking to me. This is about the wedding." "Of course it's about the wedding." "You're punishing me through my children." "Your children are not being punished. Their parents need to arrange their care." "They expect to stay with you." "Who told them that?" She didn't answer. "Brooke, did you tell Lily and Max before asking me?" "They love being with you." "That wasn't my question." "I knew you would say yes." "You believed I had no right to say no." She released a long breath. What am I supposed to do now? It was the question she had asked me in different forms for years. What am I supposed to do about the school pickup? What am I supposed to do during this work trip? What am I supposed to do when Jason changes weekends? The answer had always been me. This time I said, call their father. Jason is working. Did you ask him? He'll use it to demand additional custody time. They are his children. You know how complicated that relationship is. You said your wedding needed to be free of complicated family dynamics. Apparently, your honeymoon does not. She hung up. I felt terrible after the call, not because I believed I was wrong, but because boundaries often feel cruel when you have trained everyone to expect your surrender. I pictured Lily asking why I didn't want her. I pictured Max forgetting his medication. I pictured Brooke telling them that Grandma was angry and didn't want to help. I almost called back. Instead, I called Jason. He answered on the third ring. Is everything okay with the kids? Yes. Did Brooke ask you to keep them during the honeymoon? What honeymoon? I closed my eyes. Brooke had not even told him the travel dates. I explained the schedule. Jason was quiet for a moment. She planned to leave the country for 12 days without discussing it with me. Apparently, I can take them. You're working. I have vacation days. I'll move to meetings. His answer was so simple that I nearly laughed. She said you wouldn't be available. She didn't ask. There was that word again, ask. One small action could have prevented the entire conflict. Jason agreed to collect the children after the reception and keep them until Brooke returned. In exchange, he wanted 2 additional weekends later in the year. I told him that arrangement was between them. Before ending the call, he said, Helen, you know you're allowed to have your own life, right? I didn't answer immediately. It was strange hearing permission from my former son-in-law when my own daughter had forgotten I needed to be asked. Helen called me that evening. Her voice sounded confused. Helen, Brooke says you backed out of watching the kids. I never agreed to watch them. She said this had been arranged months ago. I sent her the schedule 3 days ago. She became quiet. I thought you weren't attending the wedding because you had already planned to be away. I gripped the phone more tightly. Brooke told you that? She said the date conflicted with a trip you couldn't change. The exclusion was painful. The lie was worse. I don't have a trip, I said. Grant apologized. He sounded sincere, but sincerity could not solve what Brooke had created. He asked whether I wanted him to speak to her about attending. I declined. I don't want an invitation offered because the lie was discovered. You're her mother. She knew that when she made the guest list. Brooke arrived at my house the next morning. Her face was pale with anger. You called Jason. Yes. You had no right to involve him before speaking to me. He is your father. Now he wants 2 extra weekends. Then discuss it with him. She walked into my living room without being invited and placed her handbag on the chair. You also told Grant I lied. Grant called me. You could have protected me. I stared at her. Protect you from the truth? You know what his family is like. No, Brooke, know what you say they're like. Her face changed. What does that mean? Did Eleanor actually ask you not to invite me? Brooke looked away. That was enough. Did Grant? They didn't say it directly. Who decided my presence would create emotional tension? I was trying to make one day simple. By telling your fiancé I was traveling and telling me his family didn't want me there? You don't understand the pressure. Then explain it. She sat down. For the first time since arriving, she looked less angry than tired. Eleanor believes I rebuilt my life on my own. Grant admires how independent I am. His friends see me as someone who survived a difficult divorce and kept everything together. You did survive it, with you doing half the work. The honesty of that sentence softened something in me, but not enough. And you were ashamed of that? I was ashamed that I still needed my mother at 35, so you removed me from the wedding. I thought you'd talk about the kids staying with you, or the school pickups, or the money. I have never humiliated you in front of anyone. You wouldn't mean to. That is not an apology. What do you want from me? Nothing today. Are you really going to miss my wedding? You uninvited me. I can fix that. You can add my name on a seating chart. You cannot change why you removed it. She started crying then, quietly. I wanted to put my arms around her. That instinct did not disappear because I was hurt, but comforting her immediately would have returned us to the same arrangement. Brooke caused the pain, and I managed everyone's feelings afterwards. I love you, I told her, but I won't attend a wedding where my invitation exists only because your lie was discovered. She wiped her face. And the kids? They will be safe with their father. After the honeymoon? I understood what she was asking. Would I resume school pickups? Would the old system return when the wedding ended? We need a new arrangement. I will spend time with Lily and Max because I love them, but I am not available automatically. You will ask, I may say no. School transportation and regular childcare belong to you and Jason. You're abandoning me. No, I'm resigning from a job I was never allowed to admit I had. On the morning of the wedding, I woke at 6. For a few minutes, I lay still and imagined where Brooke would be. Hair and makeup, photographers, Eleanor checking table cards, Lily spinning in her flower girl dress, Max complaining about his shoes. My sister Marissa invited me to spend the weekend with her in Monterey. At first, I refused. Traveling on the wedding weekend seemed theatrical, as if I were staging a competing event. Marissa said staying home alone to prove I wasn't dramatic was still allowing the wedding to control my choices. She was right. We drove to the coast. We ate lunch overlooking the water and walked until the wind became too cold. At 4 in the afternoon, Lily called me from a quiet hallway at the venue. She wore a pale blue dress and a crown of tiny white flowers. "Grandma, look." She turned in a circle while holding the phone. "You look beautiful." "Dad is picking us up after cake." "I know." "Mom said you're on a trip." I looked at Marissa. "I'm spending the weekend with Aunt Marissa." "Are you sad you're missing the wedding?" Children ask direct questions because adults have not yet taught them to disguise the truth. "Yes," I said, "but I'm happy you called me." "Do you want to see Mom?" My chest tightened. "Not right now. Today is busy for her." I did not criticize Brooke. I did not ask Lily to carry a message. I told her to have fun and reminded Max not to remove his tie before the photographs. After the call, I cried for the first time. Not because I regretted my decision, because a correct decision can still break your heart. Brooke and Grant went to Italy. Jason cared for the children without disaster. Max received his medication. Lily attended dance class. The dog survived. The plants did too. The world did not collapse because I declined to organize it. When Brooke returned, she discovered what regular childcare cost. She and Jason enrolled the children in an after-school program. They divided transportation. Brooke adjusted her work schedule on Wednesdays. Occasionally, she hired a sitter. None of these solutions were impossible. They were simply less convenient than me. For the first month, Brooke spoke to me only when necessary. I continued seeing Lily and Max, but visits were planned instead of assigned. The first time Brooke asked, "Are you free Saturday?" instead of saying, "I need you Saturday," I noticed the difference. 3 months after the wedding, she came to my house carrying a large envelope. Inside were printed wedding photographs. She placed one on the table. It showed her and Grant with Lily and Max beneath an arch of white flowers. There was an empty space near Brooke's shoulder where a mother might normally stand. "I'm sorry the wedding situation hurt you," she said. I looked at the photograph. "That sounds like you're apologizing for my reaction." She closed her eyes. I practiced this in the car. Try again. She sat across from me. I was ashamed that I had needed so much help after my divorce. Grant's family made me feel like independence was proof that I deserved their respect, so I took everything you did for us and rewrote it as something I had done alone. I waited. Then I excluded you because I was afraid the truth would come out. And after doing that, I still expected you to care for my children while I went on my honeymoon. Her voice shook. It was cruel. Yes, I'm sorry. That apology did not erase the wedding. It did not place me in the photographs or return the moment my daughter walked down the aisle. But it was honest. Honesty does not repair everything. It gives repair somewhere to begin. Brooke and I are better now, though not the same. I no longer collect the children 3 times a week. I sometimes take them for a weekend because I want to, not because a schedule appears in my inbox. Brooke asks before writing my name on school forms, and when I say I have plans, she no longer demands to know whether they are important enough. Last month, she asked whether I regretted missing the wedding. I told her the truth. I regret that you didn't want me there. I don't regret refusing to pretend it was acceptable. She nodded. That's fair. 4 years of helping my daughter convinced both of us that reliability meant permanent availability. She called me whenever she needed someone dependable, but when she designed the most important day of her life, she decided I did not belong in the picture. That was when I finally understood the difference between being loved and being useful. I did not stop being a mother. I did not stop being a grandmother. I simply stopped being an unpaid employee whose schedule everyone else was allowed to write. If your adult child excluded you from their wedding but expected you to provide free childcare during the honeymoon, what would you have done? Would you have attended after receiving a last-minute invitation? Or would the original decision have been impossible to forgive? Tell me what you would have done in Helen's place. And if you believe love should include respect for your time, subscribe to Karma's Revenge Stories. Here, being dependable does not mean being disposable.